In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to configure an extended ACL. This is going to be a numbered extended ACL and not a named ACL. So what I've got is a topology here with two hosts, and they're on 192.168.1.0 subnet. I've got two routers, and they're connected by 192.168.2.0 subnet. And I have two servers, and they're on 192.168.3.0 subnet. The FTP server is 3.1 and the web server is 3.2. So the web server is for web-based applications, and the FTP server is for exchanging files. And so what I want to do is I want to deny access for all hosts on this subnet 1 to the FTP server, so they can't upload, for example, files to the FTP server. I also want to deny access from just host 2 to the web server, so host 1 would still be able to access the web server. And then I'm going to apply the access list inbound on router 1. The reason I'm doing that is because if I'm applying it inbound, I want to apply extended ACL as close to the source as possible, and so I don't start filtering traffic that shouldn't be filtered. If I had other subnets connected to other interfaces on the router and I applied it outbound on this interface 1.0, it would filter traffic from those subnets as well, because 1.0 is a common interface. So I just want to apply it inbound on 2.0. So what I'm going to do to start with, I want to configure an extended access list and name it 100. Extended ACL start at numbering 100. I want to add a remark that describes the purpose of the ACL. So I'm going to deny all FTP traffic from all hosts on that subnet 1 to the FTP server. And I'm also going to deny HTTP traffic only from host 2 to the web server. Then I'll permit all traffic not matching on any previous ACLs, and that's kind of a standard permit IP any statement to allow any traffic that doesn't match anything previously, and apply it inbound on router 1 fast Ethernet 2.0. So the first thing I want to do is just start with verifying connectivity. So with host 1, for example, I want to make sure that it can connect to the FTP server. So I'm going to go to the FTP server is 3.1. So Cisco, and the password is Cisco. So I'm logged on there. You can see the FTP prompt. So I'll just quit statement. Now I'm back to the host. And I also want to make sure that host 2 can connect to the FTP server. So I do the same thing. I'll just start an FTP session to the FTP server. And that works fine. So I'll quit and I'm back to host 2 again. And the other thing is with host 2, I want to verify connectivity to the web server. So what I'm going to do is just go over to the web browser and type 192.168.3.2, and it works fine. So host 2 can connect to the web server with no problem. I can try host 1 too, it should be okay. But host 1 really isn't part of the ACL. So all hosts on that subnet can connect, but host 2 I'm going to filter. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some commands. And the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to start with FTP. So I'll start with this top command here. And I'll go over to, I'm just going to close that for a sec. And I'll go over to router 1. I'll sign on and start configuring. So accesses are global commands. So I'm just going to paste in what I've got there. I also need an EQ FTP. You can use a number sometimes as well, but this time I'm just using this. I'll just do this here. So that says access list 100 deny TCP, because FTP is a TCP based application, so I'm telling it's a single application and what it is. There's FTP, and the source is 192.168.10 that I'm denying, and there's the mask, so it masks off the first 3 octets, so that tells me it's the 1 subnet, 192.168.1, and I'm telling it destination host 192.168.3.1, and that's the FTP server. And so the next command is HTTP, so I'm going to work on that now. And I'll just paste that in. EQWWW. So access is 100. It's the same access list. I'm going to deny TCP. But what application is it? Well, it's the web-based application, HTTP packets. And it's just from a host this time, so I'm going to use the host command, host 192.168.1.2. So it's just that host to the host 192.168, and that should actually be a 3.1. That's a typo. That should be 3.1. The FTP is 3.1. And then I'll just make that a W. So that's what it does. So this, actually no it isn't. I was correct. It is 3.2. I'm on the web server now. Okay. So that does that. So that will deny just web-based applications from host 2. And so .2, and now I'm just going to apply. Now I'm going to apply the permit statement. So anything else. So I'm just going to copy and paste it here. And just paste it in there, and that'll permit all other traffic, any source to any destination. And IP just means any application. So IP is in the OSI model just at layer 3, so it's just a layer below TCP, so it includes everything above that. So it's another way of saying all applications. So that's done, and then I just want to apply it. So that's easy enough. I'm just going to go to the interface now and apply it. Interface FA20. And at this point I'm going to do IP access group, so it's the same command as with named lists. And then the number is 100 and in. That's all there is to it. So now the ACL is applied. What I'm going to do is go over here. It's all applied. Now I need to test to make sure it works. So I've applied it inbound. So the first thing I want to do is go to host 1 and try FTP. So I'm going to FTP there. That's the 3.1 is the IP address of the FTP server. So it tries to connect this time and disconnect from FTP server. So FTP server this time wasn't permitted. So I'll go to host 2 and do the same thing, and go to command prompt. I'm going to go to try an FTP there, 3.1, trying to connect, and it's not being permitted. So it was disconnected from the FTP server. So in this example as well, host 2 should not be allowed to access the web server. So I'm going to go over there, and the web server is 3.2. And time's out. So it's working correctly. Host 2 can't access the web server. That's 3.2. And if I go to host 1, can it access the web browser? Okay, or web-based applications. So 192.168.3.2, and it can. And that's how it's supposed to work. So only host 2 is being filtered. And that concludes Extended ACL 1.